Hey, good Wednesday evening, everyone. This is Scotty Powell, meteorologist with Burke Weather, and you're watching another Carolinas Weather Group. A very cold night in store for the Carolinas and Virginia and Georgia and Tennessee and all the areas that we cover. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that. But tonight, we're going to be talking with Ari Sarsalari, who is with us tonight. He is our guest. He currently works with the Weather Channel, and he was just telling us a little bit off camera. He's settled into the South, so this cold air. He's kind of used to it where he grew up in Wisconsin. So we'll talk about Ari's background and kind of talk about his career in weather and all that good stuff. I'm sure we'll talk about his days in Alabama with tornadoes and all that good stuff that we'll discuss tonight. So before we do that, I'm going to let our panel introduce herself. I will say Daniel is off tonight, as well as Matt and Austin. I know all three of those guys are busy tonight, so it's a short panel tonight. Myself, Joey, and Ricky. So, Joey, I'll pass it to you, and we'll let you and Ricky introduce yourself, and then we'll start the interview.
All right. Well, I was in the middle of tweeting a show for the evening. But, yeah, my name's Joey, in case you're watching for the first time. I am the head chief in charge of Catawba County Weather. I am the guy. So if you have any complaints, I got somebody under me for that. But anyway, weather here the last couple of days has been quite interesting. I was just telling the guys before we started the show that we got grapple today at my house. I may have danced around like a little schoolgirl. It's possible that happened. I was skipping through the grapple today.
You should have done a Jim Cantori impression.
I was holding off because we had the possibility for thunder snow. I didn't want to put all my cards out on the table right away. So I skipped the grapple and waited for the thunder snow, but I didn't get to scream and jump around like old Jim did. But anyway, so it was an interesting day. I had fun trying to explain to 15,000 followers what the heck grapple is. So I could have directed them back to our show from the past. But anyway, that's my story. Ricky, what's it like on the UNCC campus?
Cold, and just like both of you, I've been fielding questions all day, mainly from students on UNCC weather as to if we're going to have class tomorrow, just because there's a little bit of ice and it's a little cold out here. But I don't think there's going to be any delays tomorrow. From what I understand, the chancellor didn't even want to delay today, but was kind of forced to once there was a uproar over everything. So we're trying to make communication better here on UNC Charlotte's campus, and how the chancellor and how everyone gets weather information. So that's what's happening down in our neck of the woods.
And here in the foothills of North Carolina, in the mountains, we've seen some snow today and some grapple as well. Not much accumulation, but if you went up in the areas of Boone and Newland and Sugar and Beach Mountain, they got a couple of inches up there. So now we're all settling in for the cold Arctic air invasion that's coming tonight and tomorrow. And it's going to be really cold Friday morning as we could bottom out in the near negative territory with temperatures. Right now our forecast is as low as 0 degrees on Friday morning, so that's going to be real fun waking up to. So we're looking forward to that. Maybe another winter storm or touch of winter storm this weekend, and I'm sure we'll talk about that before the show's over. Before we do that, I want to toss it over to Ricky, and he's going to conduct our interview, and we'll get started.
All right. Sounds good. Yeah, we'll come back to the cold and the frigid air, which I think Ari's dealing with down there in Atlanta as well, right?
I mean, I can't complain compared to what it's like up north, but yeah, I'm cold. I mean, the house is cold. I'm not happy.
It's not Boston. My neighbor or my cousin was telling me, and I've seen it on social media recently for the past few days, people were able to jump off their roofs in Boston and still be perfectly fine with no injuries because the snowpack is so deep.
Little bit on the dangerous side.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. You know, kind of like when you're just jumping into like a river or stream and you don't know how deep it is.
Yeah, or what's beneath it.
Just go for the belly flop, you know, less chance of death. Injury chance still there, but we can deal with an injury, I guess.
As long as it's not Joey jumping in, I think we'll be good. But
the old cannonball. Do it.
That was a fat joke, and I know it.
If Joey was to jump in, we would have no snow left.
That's not very nice. My wife would not be happy with that joke.
That's all right. I'll take him in stride. Wait till we start talking about Scotty's hair, and I don't know what we have on Ricky yet, but
it's a pretty good-looking hair.
It is.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
We're trying to get Axe to sponsor us here.
Oh, Axe. That was uncalled for. I liked it.
Well, now that we've taken this off track, so go ahead and tell us a little bit about where you are today. I know you've been on air in Alabama, correct, in the past, but now you've transitioned over to the Weather Channel.
Yeah, I did. I did about 7 years of local news. I graduated in '07 from University of Wisconsin with a degree in meteorology, or what it technically was atmospheric and oceanic science. So I never got any, formal TV training at school, but I got an internship with the local weather guy in Milwaukee, where I grew up. John Milan was the local guy there, and I thought I was just going to be kind of learning about weather, and then all of a sudden he put me up on the green screen, and before I knew it I had a tape, and I was going to graduate, and I'm like, I need a job, so I ended up on TV, and ended up kind of liking it. I started at WLIO, Lima, Ohio. I did about 2.5 years there. God bless the news director that hired me there, Lon Teagles, for allowing me the chance with how rough it was. But I did 2.5 years there. I was lucky to do mornings right out of college. And basically my whole career after that in local news was mornings. I'm not a morning person. You got to wake up at like 2:30 in the morning to do these local news shifts. But you have the afternoon off, which is nice. But so I did 2.5 years there at Lima, Ohio. For people who haven't heard of it, it's in between Toledo and Dayton. Little town, about market 200-ish. It was 185 while I was there, but they kind of falter. And then I did 2 years in Charleston/Beckley, West Virginia. So that was, some of the stuff that you guys do a lot. That mountain snow forecast, a lot of the upslope stuff. Radars overshooting the snow. You got to just kind of know where it's going to snow. And about just as fast as I learned that, right as soon as I learned that, then I got a job in Huntsville, Alabama, which was, pretty much right where I wanted to be. Huntsville, I'm a severe weather guy. I'm a severe weather buff. It's my expertise. I love covering tornadoes. I love covering severe weather. Like the winter weather, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. It bores me sometimes. Yeah, I can appreciate a good snowstorm, and I like it. I love looking at a big, storm on visible satellite, a big, pretty mid-latitude cyclone, but, I'd much rather be out covering a tornado than out in the cold like Jim Cantori has been for the last several days.
Fast-paced versus long-based, and nights stuck at the station to where you can't even get out. So.
Yep.
But you mentioned severe weather, and you were in Alabama during the large tornado outbreaks of 2011, right?
I was not.
You weren't?
I was actually in West Virginia. I covered a couple of the tornado warnings that we had in southern West Virginia. This was April 27, 2011. That was a big tornado outbreak. I was in Huntsville, though, for the April 28, 2014 outbreak last year, which was pretty bad. It was nothing close to 2011, but, a couple people died. We had 4 EF3s in our DMA in one night, several smaller tornadoes in that. So that was definitely a big deal. But, yeah, I really enjoy covering tornadoes live. It's my favorite thing to do in the world.
Talk a little bit about how your experience, though, in Alabama varied from your experience in West Virginia with tornadoes. As Joey and Scotty mentioned before the show, and as I've seen over the years, a lot of schools in Alabama, release early or actually delay the next day due to severe weather. Why is that?
I think it's because of how big of a deal the severe weather is down there. Tornadoes in Alabama, that part of the country, it's not like the tornadoes in the plains. These things are usually, first of all, the terrain is crazy. You've got trees everywhere and hills, and then you've got the fact that there's so much moisture, a lot of these things are completely buried in rain. They're rain wrapped. You can't see anything. Mm-hmm. So, look, it's just a really dangerous area for tornadoes. They've been through some horrific events, and I think, understandably, schools are a little bit on the cautious side. Sometimes, look, when I was a local Met there, I was thinking when they would delay schools on certain days, I'd be like, man, I wish they would have just called me. Are they consulting with meteorologists? Because sometimes they end up releasing during the most dangerous part of the day. And I'm like, guys, we got to talk about this and do it right. But look, in general, they get the idea. It's not terrible, but yeah, that's one.
We had the same situation here where our university decided to release right when the freezing rain started. So I can totally understand your frustration with the administration sometimes. But from a communication standpoint, from a covering it standpoint, was there anything that differed based off how you talked about storms in Alabama versus how you talked about maybe storms in West Virginia? I know the terrain's different, and probably the impacts from those storms are much different as well.
Yeah, huge difference. Not even the terrain. Terrain didn't matter too much. It was more just every DMA you're in, you need to know what have these people been through. Okay, so Alabama's been through a lot compared to West Virginia as far as tornadoes go. So these people are used to seeing tornadoes. They see a lot. They also get a lot more tornado warnings. So you have to be careful to not overhype the smaller tornado warnings. It's a very intricate thing covering tornadoes in a place like Alabama that's been in through a thing like April 27, 2011. That's why I think in general it's important to kind of underplay things when you really don't think it's going to be a big deal. Look, a lot of the times you get tornado warnings that'll come out. You get a little spin up at 8,000 feet or something. And by the way, the weather service in Huntsville is just phenomenal. I mean, they're some of the smartest people I've ever worked with before. But look, I mean, they got to be a little bit more better safe than sorry type of deal sometimes. So sometimes they'll warn stuff that's a little bit on the questionable side, and as a meteorologist, you'll hear a lot of people say, okay, oh my gosh, look, we got this anybody in this red box, get in your bathtub with helmets on and all this stuff. There needs to be a difference. You need to know your stuff well enough as a meteorologist to say, okay, there's going to be a situation where I need you in your bathtub with a helmet on, okay? But when I've got a little spin up at 8,000 feet, I don't really know if it's on the ground, probably not. Look, hey, let's stay away from windows, get down to your basement, take it easy with this one, don't worry, I'm not really sure if there's a tornado on the ground. You can say that kind of stuff, and that's the kind of stuff you got to say in Alabama. In West Virginia, they don't get them quite as often, so I don't really mind putting somebody in a tornado shelter very confidently every time there's a tornado warning, but the thing in Alabama is you need people to take it seriously when it's the real deal. So that means you need to kind of build, you need to kind of build confidence with the people. You need to get them to trust you. You need to build trust by not overplaying things that aren't as big of a deal.
Ari, that's a great point that you bring up. We've had this discussion with several guys, James Spann, Marshall Shepard, just a few. And the discussion was about, should we really do tornado warnings on these small spin-ups like you were talking about? A lot of discussion I know in the meteorological world of do we warn on these events? Do we do a tornado warning, severe thunderstorm warning, and just put it in the wording in that severe thunderstorm warning? What is your take on that?
I think we could warn a few less probably, but like I said, I mean, these are really smart guys working at the Weather Service. I mean, and I will say I've seen a few situations where there have been some of these questionable spin-ups at 8,000 to 10,000 feet. They're getting a little farther away from the radar. You don't really know exactly what's going on, and you don't see a debris signature and that kind of thing. But then they go the next day and you find an EF2. I mean, normally it's less than that in those situations. You'll maybe find an EF0 or an EF1 if there is one. But I've seen, what was the name of the town? Kilpatrick, DeKalb County, Alabama, EF2. I went through that radar data like crazy just to double check and make sure that you couldn't see it. There's just so many factors. I think the biggest. Can you guys tell I'm passionate about this? I can just go on forever. But look, I think one of the biggest mistakes that we've made is upgrading to dual pol before we increase the radar coverage. Because, I mean, the most important thing, absolutely the most important thing as an operational meteorologist is to be able to see as low in the storm as possible. And there are some parts of the country where you've got some serious severe weather country and you've got big radar holes. These things can only see at best maybe 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 feet up. And this is serious. But look, usually when you have something that dual pol is going to pick up a debris signature on, I mean, that's usually going to be low enough in the storm or close enough to the radar that you'd be able to see it on the velocities anyways. So yeah, it's really nice to have that complete confirmation there, but I'd still like to have more radars filling in those holes. I think that would be kind of the best thing.
Scotty and Joe, I mean, you guys live up in that area where you see the same type of things. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I was just going to say that I know all about what you're saying. We actually, well, the GSP radar is pretty far from my location, but then we have the Charlotte Airport radar, which literally has, I don't know if you've ever seen it, Ari, but we literally have a hole across our county that it doesn't cover. It's a slice out of the radar. And Ricky, they just made a thing about exactly what that was. What was it exactly? Do you remember?
I know. Look, I know my mother and father-in-law live in Charlotte, and when I went there and I was checking the radar for the first time, I remember opening Radar Scope because I'd never been to that part of the country, and I'm just kind of like, oh my gosh, there's this big of a radar hole over Charlotte? Like, that's a big city. Like, I remember thinking that's crazy. I mean, is there a terminal Doppler there though?
There is terminal Doppler weather radar a little bit to the northwest of Uptown area. The airport's on the west side of the city, and the radar was put in place after an airplane crashed there several years ago. I think it was in the early 2000s. You guys can probably elaborate on that, but they put that in, and it provides adequate coverage for most of the metro area. But as Joey mentioned, there's a little hole towards the northwest where they turned off the radar beam due to radio interference and interference from a communications tower that was up there. So
yeah, that's what it was.
Why they decided to do that, I'm not really sure, but it provides, kind of a cone of silence for us as storms are approaching, especially the university area in my case, because we're on the northeast side of the city, and any storm coming from the northwest part of the city, the winds disappear until right after they get on the other side there.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's portions like Joey was talking about, the terminal Doppler in Charlotte, but then you have Greenville, Spartanburg, and then you have Raleigh. There's areas between those. I can think of Iredell County, Rowan County, that they kind of are on the fringes of those radars, and it does not give a lot of good data for those areas. And Ricky, you know this as well. A couple years ago, we had a tornado that hit the Harrisonburg area, and it wasn't really picking up on either of the radars until we actually heard of damage in that area.
That's another pretty good hole, isn't it? Around Harrisonburg? Am I thinking of Virginia? Might be
Harrisburg, North Carolina.
Oh, North Carolina, I gotcha.
It's on the east side of Mecklenburg County, very near our university, actually. And we had a tornado, I believe it was March 2012, that happened at around 2 in the morning. It was rated an EF2, but it was one of those kind of QLCS spin-up storms. And what actually happened was the Weather Service in Greenville-Spartanburg, which covers Mecklenburg County, never issued a tornado warning because they didn't see it. Now, having said that, Brad Panovich was on air and was warning about it and broke into coverage because he saw the rotation on there on the radar, and he also started getting reports from viewers saying their power was going out, their cable was going out, and everything like that.
Good for him. He's an excellent meteorologist. That was a good move.
The reason it was warned was, and I'm pretty sure this story is correct, but a forecaster at the Weather Service in Raleigh, which covers, Stanley County to the east of Mecklenburg, warned it because he was on the phone with his mother, and then all of a sudden the phone line cut out. And so he figured there was something going on there, and he issued a tornado warning.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and this tornado was serious enough that it picked a 14-year-old child out of his bedroom and dropped him into the middle of Interstate 485. If you've ever been there, it's like a 6-lane highway.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's not even a child. That's almost a full-grown man. Jeez.
It was a interesting storm that caused the Weather Service to get into a few news stories here, needless to say, over the next couple of days.
Look, I mean, there are times where the Weather Service, they get a lot of flack.
Mm-hmm.
I've given them flack before, like they're not perfect, they're humans. I give myself flack. I should take some flack when I screw up once in a while, and they do screw up once in a while. Everybody does. But there are also a lot of situations where they don't do anything wrong where they take a lot of flack. You know what I mean? Like, there are a lot of times where there literally is nothing you can do, and these QLCS, I've seen plenty of them, especially in Alabama. We get these all the time, especially in the winter. You get a QLCS come through, and the tornado will literally occur in between scans, so you can't see anything. and it's so brief and quick and maybe far enough away from the radar you don't ever get a debris signature. You just see a little rotation, it's no big deal, then you start to get some reports, and then they go, do the damage survey the next day, and they're like, oh, this was a quick little EF1. It only lasted half a mile, 200 yards wide or something like that. It's so incredibly common. So, I don't know. I mean, it's a technology. Like I said, if we could get the radar scanning lower into the storms, more coverage, and maybe quicker scans. I know a lot of this stuff they've been doing lately with, what is it, Sales?
Sales and AFSET.
Yeah, AFSET, that's the one, where they're not taking quite as high. Okay, it's like, yeah, who cares about if it's a QLCS coming through? I don't care how high the storm is. There's not much of hail potential, whatever. Just give me like 1 minute scans on the lowest scan.
Yeah, that tornado, you said it ended up in news stories. It actually literally ended up on the governor's desk here because there was a long discussion about getting another radar in that area to cover that zone. So that one went pretty far up the scale, and we still don't have a radar. But
as Brad said the other day, we just need to win the Powerball and then install 40 of those phased array radars all across Charlotte. So
now we're talking.
Then we'll be good. You mentioned dual pol a little bit earlier, and I know you're a big fan of dual pol, and you're always sending out pictures and images of different correlation coefficients and ZDR and everything. Talk a little bit about your interest in that, and then anything you've seen over the years that's maybe really interesting.
Well, I mean, dual pol's awesome. It really is awesome. It's great. Like I said, I'll still take more radar coverage over dual pol any day, but it can really tell you a lot of stuff. It's fun to look back at radar files. So what I do a lot, like you can ask my wife, I'll stay up late on weekends, and where I used to go out, now I'll get excited about, like, especially during severe weather season, I'm like, oh, there's a big severe weather outbreak today. I can't wait to download all the files, and I'll just stay up until like 5 in the morning looking at these files. So yeah, I mean, look, correlation coefficient is awesome because I mean, you can just tell so much about a storm from dual pol. I don't even know where to start. I mean, it's just an open question. But some of the more interesting things I've seen. Gosh, I mean, maybe I can screen share a few things with you. What do you think?
Yeah, sure.
I actually didn't have this prepared. This was some of the stuff I was showing on Weather Brains. It's like about 8 months ago or something like that. But this was from the April 28th. Now you guys will have to forgive me. I grew up in the Skype era, so the Hangouts.
By the way, we love Weather Brains leftovers around here.
Hey-o. That's right. They're hand-me-downs.
Ari, while you're looking for that, we have a question actually for you, and it's kind of a funny question, I guess.
Okay.
It says, what kind of changes in the weather will happen when the Boston Bruins start trading away all their star players? Will it create large storms?
Brutal.
That is from What Is Cooking Now on Google. So I don't know. I'm glad they're watching tonight. So evidently you're a big Bruins fan, and it must not be a good season.
I am. That's a good friend of mine, actually. I'll just have full disclosure right there. He's a funny guy. Very nice guy from Huntsville. Started playing hockey with him. I'm not very good. We're not very good. Maybe he's better than me now. But the first time I ever put on a pair of hockey skates, you guys, this was like last summer. And I just decided on a whim. I'm like, I'm going to go buy hockey skates, and I'm going to go learn how to skate. I'm just going to do it. So I just bought them myself. They're like $350. I used my tax refund. And then I didn't fall or anything, but when I was taking them off, and my hand slipped down, and I sliced my wrist open. Can you see the scar? It's in there. There's a scar there, but anyways, it was probably an omen. But yeah, the Bruins, rough year. We traded Johnny Boychuk, my favorite player, Jerome McGinley. It's not good. All right, where was I?
I thought all meteorologists were supposed to be hurricanes or lightning fans. I didn't know what happened there.
I like the lightning. I'm all right.
That's all right. I'm a Capitals fan, so.
There you go. Hey, Capitals are not. Are they in the wild card right now, or are they in the playoffs?
I don't know. I quit watching hockey. I live in North Carolina.
All right. Can you guys see this or no?
Yes.
Okay. So this was from April 28th, 2014, and you can just see how absolutely buried these storms were in rain. I mean, like the tornado was right here. This was DeKalb. I said DeKalb County, Alabama, like around midnight or something like that. This was after I had actually gone home because I had to do the morning shift the next day, and we had done already like 8 hours of coverage, and Spencer, my chief, and Isaac, who was working there at the time, who was also very good, was staying. But yeah, I mean that's just all rain. You had debris signatures popping up. It was it made the job very easy. That was the velocity signature. But you see what I'm talking about, you guys, when I say, yeah, the dual pole's nice. It's nice to be able to see that debris signature, but usually when you have a debris signature, you've already got a velocity signature like this. And usually anytime you see something like that on velocity, I'm pretty comfortable putting people in a tornado shelter and telling them to put helmets on. You know what I mean? So this was the big tornado of the day because it affected the most people. EF3 hit Athens. I was on the air at the time that this was going down. My chief Spencer's an awesome guy. There's so many chief meteorologists. Spencer Denton, he works in Memphis right now. He does not have a big ego. There are a lot of chiefs who will not let anybody else on the air. This guy, he let me on the air for a long time, so I really appreciate that. But, I mean, look, that's a big town. That's one of the bigger towns in our DMA, Athens. So it's just when you're on the air and you see that coming, it's like you get desensitized to a certain degree doing news for a while. And I honestly didn't expect it, but I mean, you do get a little bit emotional, like after you get off the air, and you see that on the radar screen behind you. You get off the air, and you're kind of like, I'm guessing people probably died while I was on the air. I mean, just from the experience there, you know what I mean? So, anyways, I don't know how to stop screen sharing.
Press the button one more time, and it should take it off.
Come on now. Well. Did I take off the screen share? Now you're just seeing my... I'll figure it out, don't worry.
That's one thing I wanted to talk a little bit about with you, Ari. Watching the YouTube clips of you and your coverage there in Alabama. What was that day like? I mean, I know it wasn't the super outbreak of 2011, but still several tornadoes touched down in the area. I mean, what is it like being in front of the camera with a lot of people dependent on you to get their information?
I love it. It's my absolute favorite thing on the planet to do. I love covering severe weather. I love gaining the trust of people. It's not as hard as it seems on a day like that. Are you guys not getting my camera, by the way?
Nope.
Yeah. I don't know what the deal is. Maybe I pop out and pop back in. What do you think?
Hang on a second. Let me figure out how to end my screen share, and then we'll see if I can... You see any green bar at the top that says stop sharing or something?
Yeah, and then I stopped sharing. I mean, I've stopped sharing, but I'm still getting no camera.
Try turning your camera on and off just to see if that...
Camera on and off. Let's give that a work.
Well, we got a picture now of the profile picture of this.
Well, that's weird. There we go.
There we go.
Okay. No, look, a day where there's a big tornado outbreak like that, it's actually easier because I've seen so many hundreds of thousands of radar images. But you almost don't even need to. It's like you know that there are tornadoes on the ground, so you know how to communicate this. It's tougher when you've got little spin-up warnings and you're kind of like, oh boy, is there something on the ground here? I wonder, etc. But when you've got, debris signatures, big tornadoes on the ground, it's very easy to say. It's like, listen, people, I know we get these tornado warnings a lot where we don't really know if there's a tornado on the ground. This is not that situation. Like, there is a tornado on the ground. You absolutely have to take this seriously. And if over time you underplay things enough and you show that you're not a hyper, they'll take you seriously. They recognize that inflection in your voice. They see that you're worried. They can see it in your eyes, And as long as you just talk to them like a normal person, I'm not saying you worry people. I'm not saying you scare people. But I don't know. It was like I didn't think it was all that difficult while it was going on, but I didn't expect how difficult it was going to be after. I mean, it's not like I broke down or anything, but it was just kind of like it really bothered me for a while. The only people that died were people that refused to get in shelters. They were in trailer parks, and everybody else in the trailer park got in the tornado shelter when the tornado warning was issued, and they made the conscious decision not to. So I guess that made it a little bit easier, but still, I mean, just the fact that you're on the air while people died, it's not the easiest thing in the world, I guess.
Yeah, that's something we don't really contend much with, but I can only imagine, seeing those super outbreaks up there with the times 2 or 3 tornadoes on the ground at the same time in your same area. I know it's got to be an adrenaline rush too. I mean, I know you said you love the severe weather, so.
It is. I mean, I've always said, I like doing the morning news. It's fun. You can yuck it up with people and kind of be yourself and joke around and stuff, and that's all fun. But when you've got like a week long where it's sunny outside, your job gets boring. It really gets boring. I don't know how these people in San Diego do it. I would go insane out there.
Head to the beach after work.
Yeah. And when I've always said, give me 12 tornado warnings at a time in my DMA, I'm more comfortable doing that than I am trying to get through a 3-minute weathercast where it's just going to be sunny for the next 2 weeks.
I totally understand that because with our campus weather account, we've tried to make it to where it's not really just every single day, here's your 75 and sunny forecast. It's more of a high impact based forecast, and I think students appreciate that sometimes more than just the daily stuff. I actually automate the daily stuff to where it tweets the temperature in the morning, it tweets a radar image around 2 o'clock, and just so they get that information, because some students want that, but most of it really just want to know, what these big events are going to occur. I wanted to go back real quick, though, to something you mentioned when you were talking about the severe weather coverage and how you said, don't hype it up. And I know we have several younger meteorologists, including myself, who, watch or listen to this show, and I think that's a great point to make to them that, you need to just remain calm and not probably scare your viewers more than you're scaring yourself during big adverse weather events when you're trying to, keep them calm.
I would agree, but, I do also think sometimes people in the broadcast community get a little bit too hung up on keep people calm, that's your number one thing. Well, I'm okay with scaring people a little bit if there's a big tornado on the ground headed for their community. I think it's when you get these people that are every single tornado warning, oh my God, this is the worst, that's bad, okay? But look, when I'm looking at that hook echo and the debris signature going toward the city of Athens, I mean, you can watch my coverage. Look, you don't have to go overboard, I don't want you to scare people, but you have to have a different tone, and it has to be strong. And the people are going to know it. If they've watched you for a while and you're usually pretty calm and you're not an overhyper, you've gone through a few tornado warnings with them where you're like, okay, look, listen, sometimes they put out these warnings, listen, there could be a tornado, it'll probably be a pretty small, pretty brief one, let's get in their tornado shelters, be careful, and then you contrast that to, listen to me, there is a large tornado on the ground right now. I don't very often ask you to do this, but I need you to absolutely get in your tornado shelter right now. Don't be worried, don't be scared, okay, everything's going to be fine, but I need you to take this seriously. Like, that's kind of the contrast there, I think.
Great clarification, I think.
Yeah.
I was going to say, somebody who does exactly what you just said there, that I've watched his coverage is, you mentioned Weather Brains, or James Spann. The way you can really watch him go from not a big deal to days when it was a big deal, and you could really see it. And I'm sure people get that with him, too, because he's been there so long also.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can definitely see his change in tone.
Yeah, and I've learned a lot from watching his stuff. I've watched a ton of his stuff. I've learned a lot from him and from other people too. And I think you guys were asking, for the younger meteorologists that might be watching this, that are going into broadcasting. I think the biggest thing is you need to remember it's not your job to relay Weather Service information. Now, I'm not saying you ignore them, okay? Look, I'm just saying it's not your job to take out the printout from the Weather Service and read it. Tornado warning, get in, this is like super serious business every single time. Okay? You need to be able, this is why it's so important to know your stuff. This is why it's important to stay up late, look at these radar files, and compare them to like what actually happened. Because then when it hits the fan and it's time to go, you're comfortable and you can differentiate. That's the real big issue right now, I think. People being able to differentiate between kind of a low-end tornado warning and a serious business as things on the ground. I mean, they did a lot of studies after April 27th, 2011. You know, I mean, the government, they put so much money into this stuff. Social studies, we're going to go talk to people. It's not rocket science, people. It's just a lot of warnings come out and nothing ever happens. That's it. And every time warnings come out, people are like, oh my God, this is bad, this is bad. Well, when the sirens are going off and there's an EF5 coming at somebody's house, and then they interview them after, like, did you take this seriously? Well, no, the siren always goes off, nothing ever happens. That's it. It's common sense. It just doesn't require that much, you know, research, in my opinion.
Speaking of those studies, just a quick segue into our next week's show with Dr. Laura Myers.
And I'm not trying to crush. I love Dr. Myers, by the way. I love Dr. Myers, and she does great work, and I've met her, and I really like her.
But we're gonna get into that, you know, on those studies, and I think that's a really important thing.
Yeah.
I think we also have this other girl coming on next week too. You might know her. There.
Is it my wife?
Your wife, yeah.
Next week she's coming on again?
Yeah, she's gonna come on with Dr. Myers and talk with that because she had a little bit of experience with those studies. So
good. Yeah, that'll be great because those two know each other well. You know, they've talked to each other about. I mean, Jennifer covered the April 27th tornadoes. Like that was a big deal. I wish I could have covered those. But yeah, they know each other pretty well. That'll be a great show.
Yeah, but like I said, exactly what you said. I don't think it is rocket science, and I think a lot of the studies that come out when we talk to her, it's going to prove that. It's really not rocket science. It's common sense with a lot of people that just sometimes don't get it. But yeah, just a quick opportunity to mention our next week's show there.
Good. Yeah, no, I think at some point there's going to have to be a way to kind of differentiate levels of tornado warnings. I think that's kind of the big thing we got to work toward. You know, we've made the SPC thing even more confusing now. Not a big fan, to be honest. But you know, I think of real concern is whether there's an EF5 tornado coming at your house or there's a little spin up at 10,000 feet. It's a tornado warning has been issued. That's it. And yes, you know, sometimes you'll see in chat or whatever, like, oh, tornado emergency. That's good. Like, we need to do more of that, you know? And I think broadcasters need to do that more. You need to have guts. That's what I've learned. I mean, before there was a tornado, and listen, I'm not perfect. I've made lots of mistakes. I still have tons to learn. But I'm saying, if there's one good thing that I can look back at my severe weather coverage that I was really proud of, it was telling the city of Athens to take their tornado shelter before they were under tornado warning, because I've seen enough of these radar signatures, and I saw this thing. It didn't have a debris signature yet, but you factor in the history of the storm system. There were long track tornadoes. This was the same one that produced the big one in, what was it, Vilonia, Arkansas, I think. EF4 maybe that was. But anyways, I think that was like the day before. And you just take all that stuff into account. And then I'm looking at my radar screen behind me. I'm like, look, I know you guys are not under tornado warning right now, but I'm telling you, get in your tornado shelter right now in Athens. Like, you're going to be under a tornado warning soon. You know, it's that type of stuff, I think.
And so I know that there's been stuff with the impact-based warnings, the different tiers of warning. What's your thoughts on those?
I like them. I like the impact-based warnings. You know, it takes into account what's going on. It takes into account a little bit more like the real, you know, the variety of information we have, and I think it injects a little bit of urgency into the message. Now, there have been a few times here and there where it's been a little overdone for situations that we don't quite need it. That's the thing we got to be careful with that, is that it doesn't get overused. But I think there have also been a lot of times where it's been really good.
I want to comment a little bit on our little question we posed earlier about dual pole versus better coverage. There's a resounding message on Twitter that I'm getting from many people that follow me that coverage is what we need, and then Dr. Davenport, one of our professors here at UNC Charlotte, responded simply with, yes, we want all of it. So more funding apparently is what we need too. So
Yeah.
as we wrap up in our final about 15 or so minutes, I want you to comment on the stuff you do at the Weather Channel now, and tell us a little bit about maybe this new way of weather that's evolving in the social media and internet sphere.
Yeah, this is well, this was, to be completely honest, it was a job I was a little bit I was a little worried to take it because I loved doing local news so much, and I loved doing tornado coverage in Huntsville and all that kind of stuff. But my wife had a job here, and it was kind of one of these deals where, yeah, I mean, look, I was ecstatic to work at the Weather Channel. Don't get me wrong. That's the mecca of weather, and it's awesome. But, at first I was kind of like, I don't know what this is going to be, because it was a new position they were hiring for. They wanted to have, like, their own digital meteorologist that was like an on-camera digital meteorologist. And I didn't exactly know what it was going to be. But I took it, and boy, I mean, I've really enjoyed it. It's been a great job. It's very challenging because it's very, very different from what I'm used to doing. So for the last 7 years, before I took this job in July, I've been doing mornings. Morning local news. So you're just like, hey, what's going on, everybody? Yeah, this is what your weather's going to be. This is more like we're looking at numbers. I mean, we're actually looking at numbers of where people are dropping off throughout our videos. So these things have to be like so digital friendly. People, you know how it is. I mean, you guys grew up in this era. It's like you just grab your phone, you're looking at a video. It's tough to keep my attention on the internet. I've seen it all. I mean, it's tough. So we're trying to keep these things nice and short, really short and sweet, and only giving really interesting, compelling, and necessary information, as opposed to where on TV, yeah, you've got a 3-4 minute block to fill, and you just kind of fill it up and, that kind of stuff. So this is like super unique and very, very different, but it's been an awesome experience, and I work with an excellent, excellent producer, Jim Robinson, who's probably one of the most brilliant human beings I've ever met in my life, so that's certainly helped quite a bit. But look, the sky's the limit with this. I mean, it's still going up quite a bit. The exposure's crazy. It's funny, I joke around with people because, like, when you do local news, you get recognized everywhere, With this, you don't get recognized anywhere, but you get a lot of your old friends from elementary school that are kind of like, oh my God, I was just looking on the Weather Channel app, and all of a sudden you popped up. I'm like, oh, I think I might have remembered you. It's like that kind of thing. So, look, the recognition and the fame, it's never been that big of a deal. I always liked getting recognized because it was like a validation that people are actually watching and they care about what you're doing. You know what I mean? There are some people that don't like getting recognized. Like, I always liked it. I would always just talk to people. So, yeah, do I miss that a little bit? Sure. But I'm also looking at the numbers we're doing. I mean, gosh, during the first big blizzard in Boston, gosh, we were doing like 40 million views in 3 days. That's like a decent percentage of the American population. So it's good exposure, that's for sure.
All right, what do you think of the I don't know, the social media meteorologists now? I mean, they have access to so much data. I mean, do you find that a good thing, a bad thing? A question we always ask a lot of our guests is they tweet out or Facebook a 10-day snow Mageddon storm that realistically probably won't happen. I mean, do you feel that's a good thing? I mean, I know it's good for people who are interested in the career, but a lot of people do take that to heart, and though they don't see the credibility behind the sites posting it, but they still take what they're saying for granted and trust it, when obviously we always know those 7 to 10 day Euro snowstorms are pretty not likely to happen.
How dare you talk about the Euro like that? Look, anybody who knows me knows I'm like a really big libertarian, so I believe in everybody should have the right to do everything, even Kevin Martin. I know he gets a bad name, but you know what? Just let him do his thing. Who cares? You know what I mean? But look, I think as much as it's their right to do their thing, it's also our right to make sure that people understand you need to know who the real meteorologists are. And you need to call out some of these forecasts when they're wrong. I did this in local news a couple times when somebody had posted like a 10-day out Euro snowfall map for Alabama that was saying like a foot or something, and I saved it. I saved it. It got like shared like crazy, and I saved it on my Baron box in there, and I could not wait. And I had it in my calendar, the 10-day forecast, whatever day it was forecast for. Of course, nothing happened, and it was sunny outside, and I put that thing right in my weathercast, right up behind me on the green screen. I said, listen, just so you guys know, this was a forecast that was posted on social media. It was shared like 30,000 times. I'm not going to name any names, but just listen. When you see this stuff coming up, this is why you don't take it seriously, because what's going on out right now, and then show the webcam, sunshine, nothing. So I think a lot of people get too hung up on trying to police stuff. I love the NWA. Not a big fan of the whole social media seal thing that they're doing. Like I said, I love NWA, but I don't know. Just the idea of policing this whole thing, just let things self-police, okay? People might not learn. I mean, you see a lot of really bad forecasters that are putting out consistently really bad forecasts, and no matter what, they'll say something at the end to make it sound like they were right, and then all their thousands of followers will say, we knew you were going to be right, and all. Just get over it. I just don't see it as a big deal.
More time wasted than maybe benefits earned from it. We had a guy here in North Carolina at least, who followers eventually turned on him, and someone commented the other day, why do you post these maps every single week and then they never end up happening? So
there you go.
I think, as you mentioned, people will eventually see it.
Yeah.
I would say, by the way, nobody cares about what Kevin Martin's doing except for the FBI. Apparently, they're onto it now. But
that's right. I mean, it's just like whatever. It's fun to watch. It's a good soap opera. Like whatever. No big deal.
They're doing apparently a TV weathercaster, like reality TV show. So we could start the soap operas next of weather.
I'll tell you. You know what? It's not a bad idea for a reality show. I mean. For the thing with all reality shows is obviously they're all just overproduced and they're just telling people what to say and it's all garbage. But, if you're going to do some kind of reality show, local news would be a good one, because local news is a really funny thing because it's like a totally dying business. Like, it's totally dying. The only thing people care about anymore, I feel like, is like severe weather while it's going on. I'm not just saying that because I'm a meteorologist. I mean, you just look at the numbers. Nobody's watching TV anymore. It's just local news. It was cool back in the 80s, when you had your really cool local news guy and everybody wanted to meet him. But it's just not like that anymore. But there's not as much money in it. You're getting a lot of kids hired straight out of college that are going right on air. Look, I was one of them, but I was in a small market where that's supposed to happen. You see that a lot happening in like middle markets now. Quality of the product's going down. And, look, I haven't had too many terrible bosses and managers, really. I can't overall complain too much, but, look, I've seen it before, not only myself, but from some other people from time to time that I know. There's a lot of incompetent management in local news. There are people that they take themselves so incredibly seriously sometimes that you almost just have to laugh, because they think that they're the most important thing since sliced bread, and they don't realize that really nobody cares that much. And they're very often very out of touch with what is, the latest and greatest. They just show up to everything like years late to the party, Facebook, Twitter, all this stuff, and they're doing it all wrong. Look, I worked at a station where they were mandating us to get station Facebook pages and Facebook Twitter pages when I already had like 8,000 followers on Twitter with like all my followers from this DMA that I'd worked hard to get the whole time. And they're like, no, you're going to have the Twitter station one now. Like, you guys just don't get it, do you? So it's that kind of stuff. And that's the cool thing about working at the Weather Channel, is that you have very competent bosses. There's not much micromanagement. They let you do your thing. They hire people that are good at what they do, and they let them do their thing. And it's also just a really just friendly, good work environment. Everybody's happy. There's lots of amenities. It's almost like working at Google. It's that kind of feel. It's very modern. You've got a lot of like perks and stuff like that. So that's a huge thing working at the Weather Channel. It's an awesome place to work.
I'm available if there's an opening, just saying.
Hey, application. Let's do this.
Graduate in May. Let's go.
I might need a weather producer soon, actually. We'll see.
Your wife actually already promised us a tour of the Weather Channel, so we're coming down to visit one day.
Oh, good. Excellent. Come on down.
Yeah,
You'd probably be more impressed with the network studio than the digital studio. But we're building it out. It's going to be better soon.
As we wrap up the final 5 minutes, and I think Scotty may have a question too after mine, though. Comment a little bit on where you see our industry going. I know you mentioned maybe TV's going out and digital world's going in. If I'm a meteorology major just going into college, what are my job options 4 years from now?
Mobile's the biggest thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I look at the numbers every day. Mobile is where it's at, straight up. Mobile and web. I'm not just saying this because I'm a digital meteorologist. Like I said, I was worried about taking this job because I'm like, oh my gosh, digital? Like, what is this? Like, I've been doing TV my whole life. Is anybody going to care? It's just digital. Like, what? No. Like, that's what everybody's watching. We do huge, huge numbers. And, yeah, I would say, look, there are a lot of people that, you know, are getting into the broadcasting side of things, and they might be kind of excited about the idea of like being on TV, and you might scoff at a digital job, but I'm just here to tell you, don't turn your nose at these digital jobs because this really and truly is where it's going. I'm serious.
I think to be a good, broadcaster nowadays, you need to have both quantities anyway. I mean, you need to be good at doing the online blogs. You need to be good at doing social media in general. So I see a lot of maybe connections between the two. Is there something maybe that students should do to make themselves more profitable or marketable towards a job in the digital world?
Whew. Yeah. I mean, look, if you understand social media really well, like really get it, that always helps. That's a tough question. I think you might have stumped me. I mean, look, I did morning news for a while. I can BS my way to most stuff, but I'm kind of like, I don't really know how to answer that. That's a tough one.
It's a new field, I guess. So I mean, then maybe there's no that way yet.
Yeah, because it's not the route that I took. I just kind of fell into this. I mean, my contract was coming up at Way TV in Huntsville, so I just put out a resume. I made a resume tape, and I was just like, whatever happens, happens. I made myself a website. I tried to make it available on my social media, and I just randomly got called by a guy at the Weather Channel. I got so lucky because my wife was working there at the time. We didn't know what we were going to do. I was like, I'm still here in Huntsville. Like, I might have a future here. Should you come back here? Should I try to find something in Atlanta? Am I just going to go be a line cook in Atlanta? I did that for several years. I almost went into cooking. But, look, I mean, you have to take your opportunities as you come out of college. You're going to take some lumps. I had to report at my first job, which I hated with a deep, deep, intense passion. General assignment reporting, going to commissioners' meetings. You have go to this commissioners' meeting in little old Lima, Ohio, and come back with a story, or else you're going to be in trouble. And they're just sitting there the whole time, like, appropriations for water fund to go to the. You're just like, there's no story. Like, what am I gonna? It's horrible. Reporting stinks. Some people like it, but if you're into weather and the broadcasting, just understand you're gonna have to do maybe some of this in the beginning. Don't think you're going to go from your first job to the Today Show. All right?
Good point. All right, Scotty, I got nothing more, so if you want to wrap stuff up and any more comments or questions from you guys, feel free to throw them out there.
Joey, I seen you had a couple questions.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, all right, we talked a little bit earlier, you was talking about some people that you watch and some things like that you learn from. Give a couple of new guys, obviously yourself, I'm sure you would gladly mentor anybody who would ask. But who are a couple of guys that really helped you along? I mean, that you really learned some things from.
Some of the Chiefs I worked for were really good in very different ways too. So I've just got so lucky with a variety of people that I've worked with. Darren Meyer, WEAU in La Crosse, Wisconsin. He was my first chief, and he's just an excellent meteorologist, just smooth as silk on the air. And I learned a lot about weather from him, and yeah, just kind of a little more about the business. Now, I think the guy who I've learned the most from is probably Spencer Adkins. You guys not familiar with him? He's in at WOWK in West Virginia, and he has a style that's a little bit more similar to mine. He's just kind of like, hey, bro, here's your weather. I'm just going to be myself kind of guy. You know what I mean? So he's a guy who, boy, is he great to learn from. Just watch Spencer Atkins do a newscast every single night. I mean, he's just spot on. I think a really important thing when you're broadcasting, and to maybe some of the younger people watching this, you're not giving a presentation. You're having a conversation, okay? And you'll watch some people, and I call them. There are lots of these people in the business. I call them going to be seeing meteorologists, because they'll say, we're going to be seeing breezy conditions across the. Just say, look, it's going to get breezy tonight. Like, it's going to be breezy. Like that's the type of deal. Literally, like you're talking to your friend. If you can find out how to do that, you're going to be very successful. Watch Spencer Atkins. There's nobody better in the business than him at doing that.
Awesome. My one last question for you, and I promise we won't get as tough as we did last week with the dendritic growth. Well, we stumped you a second ago. Last week, Scotty started our show by saying that we're going to discuss precipitation types, which is a lot of stuff that you probably learned in 3rd grade. We ended up in the dendritic growth zone.
Ooh, that's fun.
Yeah, third grade material. Which I did teach that to my 3rd grader. Anybody who's watching this week that was watching last week, I taught my 3rd grader what the dendritic growth zone is, and now
nice.
We're covered. Now it was learned in the 3rd grade. But anyway, my final question. Talk about Spencer being so smooth on TV. Give us your biggest oops. We posted a video on our event of you with some a few miscues from time to time. Give us one of them. Give us what was your one big oops.
See, my thing, like when I screw up, and I've done it thousands of times on morning shows, you get a lot of people that'll kind of like try to hide it. And they're just like, oh, everything's okay, blah, 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 and I'll just talk through it. Anytime anything would go wrong on a show, I just immediately draw as much attention to it as possible. So, I don't know. Like, look, I mean, maybe can I play YouTube videos on here? I can show you maybe a goof up or two. Opening YouTube, downloading app. Well, this is fun now. How about this?
This is a new round for us. We've never even tried that.
Let's see. Add videos to playlist. I had a bad tease in here somewhere.
At least you're not the guy from Boston who actually said you get the snowfall titles. He said this one almost as big as me, 9 inches. If you've ever seen that video, no lie, it was live on the air. He actually said that.
Here's a decent one. I'll show you this one. Then I'll try to find another one. I got a couple on here actually. Oh, this is just showing my. Okay, here. This was what. Look, I was reporting outside of the station during the night show. We had just had freezing rain, and I was out in the water garden, our little weather garden, where we were doing a shot, and there's a humongous chunk of ice that comes down off of the water. Is that working or no?
It muted you, but we didn't see anything.
Crap. Hold on a second. Oh, can I share on Google Plus? No. I wonder if I screen share maybe. Let's try this. All right. How about this? Can you see this?
Yes, we can see it.
I wonder if you'll be able to hear it. Let's try this. You ready?
We probably won't be able to hear it. We can see it at least.
Could you hear that?
No, we can't. We can't hear it. We can see it. So walk us through it.
All right, here you go. So, God bless it. Hold on a second. That's a shame that you guys can't hear that. I'm so sorry.
That's all right. Tell us what happened.
Well, I was just out reporting, and a humongous chunk of ice came off the tower and almost ended my life. Let me unscreen share here. Look, I got a couple of good ones. There has to be a way to like show a YouTube video on here, correct?
I would think we've never accomplished that. We never really tried though. We've only been doing this for a little over a year now. You'd think we'd have learned it by now.
I'm trying to come in here pretty soon, but thinner surfaces is where you're going to have the problem.
We had it. We could hear it.
Layer, including the road and all the soil below it, that's going to be pretty tough to get down to freezing. So the roads aren't too bad in general. See, you hear that? That was a huge piece of ice coming down right behind me. So I think I'm going to try to come in here pretty soon. But thinner surfaces is where you're going to have the problems on the roadway.
There we go. At least it worked that time. Thanks
Oh, mic check now. Mic check now.
I got you.
Yeah, there we go. Now we can hear you.
Here's another one where I was filling in on a morning show one time. Here's a very brief time where I worked night show. I was filling in on a morning show, and they told me to go to the green screen, but I didn't realize there was a shot of the anchor. This is really not all that funny, but you might get a little bit of a kick out. I added it to the playlist.
Customer after
It's working for you.
Tim Hortons restaurants in Edmonton was told no charge. Hey, Ari, don't mind me.
Yeah, you kind of had to be there, but you know. Anyways.
Be in TV long enough, and I think we'll all have those moments.
Yeah, I mean, there's gonna be that. There was one time where I had a little rant against people that were bothering us about severe weather coverage. This was the day after April 28th, where somebody had called about we were cutting into Dancing with the Stars, and I was like, dude, people died yesterday. Like, I got annoyed with it on the noon. Is this Oh, you ended my presentation?
Yeah, we
For you
your presentation. Yeah.
And of course,
Okay, can you see my YouTube video or no?
We can't see. We can just hear you.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Camera's on. Screen share. Entire screen. How about this? Will this
Now
work?
Now we can see it.
Wonder if you can hear it.
wouldn't be surprised if we end up on TV at some point tonight, breaking into your programming. I still heard yesterday people were calling to complain that we were cutting into Dancing with the Stars. Really? I mean, people died yesterday, so let's just kind of keep things in perspective here, people.
I love that one.
Deeper layer, including the...
Ah, sorry. Gotta kill it. All right, that's enough. I can't do it correctly. All right, that's all I got. Sorry, boys.
We take it in stride here. We're good with that.
We've never went into this show one time with any kind of plan ever. So that's just how we roll around here.
Hey-oh.
Well, Ari, we appreciate you coming on. I guess one last question is, I know you said you had some in-laws in the Carolinas, but do you have any other connections up here in the Carolinas or Virginia?
Yeah, my mom's family is actually from Carolina. She's a Carolina. I mean, she grew up in Maryland, but they're originally from Eden, North Carolina. Are you familiar?
I know exactly where that is.
Okay, because I kind of don't. Yeah, they bleed Carolina blue. My mom's side of the family.
That's good barbecue country, and also good tornado chasing territory, right, Ricky?
Nice.
Microphone muted. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah,
out in
no,
the eastern part.
he was muted. He just gave a nod. He was like, correct.
It's a slow nod of agreement.
That's right.
That works great on our YouTube cast. It doesn't work so well for our podcast.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. I think Ricky, that you was close to Eden last year when you got that tornado, wasn't you?
I believe so. I'd have to go reference the map because that was a year ago, and I'm not 100% sure where we were. We were up in portions of Sampson, Wayne County for a while. Eden, North Carolina, is in Rockingham County. We did go through there, though,
nice.
way over.
Yeah, Eden's north of Greensboro.
Yeah, we were over there. We at least went through that region. We may have ended up going east to find the actual tornadoes, but that is some pretty good storm chasing terrain out there, especially further east you go because you get into a lot of farmland.
Yeah, we did a little storm chasing out there. It was closer to Wilmington. We drove from Wilmington to like Corpus Christi overnight one night. just to get in on like a really slight risk because it was kind of like at the end of our trip, and we ended up in Houston on a storm that was tornado warned for a while. It had a wall cloud for a long time it was a rotating wall cloud, and it had a funnel cloud. It just never dropped a tornado, but they took us live on the Weather Channel for a while. We thought it was a pretty big deal at the time.
Interesting. Well, we appreciate you coming on tonight. I know our viewers. It was really good insight. Joey, why don't you share with Ari what you just sent a message to us? Joey always has a rant of the week, but I think he's gonna hand the crown off to you.
Yeah. Usually I haven't had anything good to rant on, but yeah, I usually do like a rant at the end of every show. Something on the social media world that's just kind of got under my skin. But I said, forget that. I'm handing it over to you from now. So every week you have to come up to a rant course.
I got plenty of them to go.
I noticed. It was great. I loved it.
Good. Well, it was fun being with you guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Hopefully we can snag you back sometime when it's good for you, and we'll talk a little bit more weather.
Anytime, boys. Sounds good.
Awesome, awesome. We'll definitely take you up on that. So, Ari, thanks for being here tonight, and we appreciate it, and looking forward to talking to you soon.
Sounds good. Have a good one, guys.
You too.
All right.
Thanks.
Yeah, so a good interview tonight with Ari. Very insightful. I mean, he had some really good stuff. Yes, no.
The microphone muting thing is going to be the death of us here. But I'm like, I have to go unmute myself. The silence moment there is deafening. But yeah, Ari's a really good meteorologist on Twitter and social media, and obviously the Weather Channel too. And I really appreciate him joining us tonight. And if you guys love Dual Pol and you love radar, make sure you follow him on Twitter at Ari Weather because he will certainly tweet out some pictures that you'll love when severe weather season comes back around.
Yeah, he does a lot of stuff with radar, so good stuff from him tonight.
There's a severe weather season coming?
I guess so. It seems a little bit like it'll never get here, considering we've got another threat of maybe some winter weather going to the weekend. And guys, I walked from my car to my dorm today, which was about a 5 to 7 minute walk, and my face was cold for a whole minute after I came inside. So that's how frigid it is out there. Although, as Joey knows, he stood on top of Carver's Gap during the blizzard that we had up there on top of it, and he was perfectly fine in a t-shirt. So maybe he's fine, but little old me, not so fine. And that was not a fat joke.
Yeah. I was just worried about holding you down. I was scared you might actually blow away up there, Ricky.
Well, yeah, Mike Cox sent me a tweet earlier, and he was like, if Ricky jumped off the roof of a house earlier, he'd just blow away before he even hit the snow. So
I do wonder what it was like up there Saturday night when we had all those gusty winds.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, tonight's going to be pretty gusty, too, in terms of winds overall. And as you pull up the radar there's some light rain showers still, well, not rain showers, light snow showers moving through some areas. Spruce Pine, Morganton getting a little bit of snow, and Lake Lure as well. So,
yeah, and if you look at temperatures, that's 21 degrees in Morganton, already down to 9 degrees in Boone. And look at the northwest wind at 23, gusting at 37. So would not want to be up in the high country tonight. 9 degrees in Jefferson and 16 down in Asheville. Over here towards UNCC, 27, 25 in Charlotte, and 21 over in Hickory with a gusting wind of 29 miles per hour. So very cold and brutal night tonight, boys, and it's going to be really cold tomorrow.
One note, we're below freezing there, and we're not going to see that again until maybe Sunday morning early. And I totally muted Scotty there by accident.
Okay, so Scotty, I'll let you talk a little bit about who we've got coming up the next couple of weeks, and then we'll end this little podcast version at least.
Definitely, we'll do it. Next week, we will have Dr. Laura Myers and Jennifer Lawrence with us, as well as Tim Belizzi.
Jennifer Lawrence?
Just Jennifer Lawrence.
I'm sorry. I was.
Whoa. Scotty's got Jennifer Lawrence on the brain today. he just got her nude pictures emailed to his inbox. Excuse Scotty, it's not his fault.
Yeah, it's not my fault. I'm sorry. Jennifer Watson and Dr. Laura Myers, as well as Tim Belizzi, going to be joining us with social media and weather. So looking forward to that. Actually, Joey and I will be on location next week in Oklahoma City, and we're going to try to snag a couple of guests as well, maybe do some cameo appearances.
Yeah, mention Dr. Myers is on there. That'll get a few people too.
That is it. First thing we do Monday when we're meeting everybody is we're going to drop it that we're going to do a show with Dr. Laura Myers, so maybe we'll get some guests to come by.
Brad Panovich just says, "Wow, can I be on that one? The show with Jennifer Lawrence?"
Talking about bloopers earlier, so there you go. Anyways, boys, let's go.
Let's wrap this up before it gets any worse.
Let's go watch Carolina Duke. Well, join us next week with Dr. Laura Myers and Jennifer, not Lawrence, but Jennifer
Watson.
Watson,
who's married to our guest from tonight.
Yeah, and Mr. Tim. So after that, Mike Bettis on the next week. So we enjoyed it, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, Fuckles.